Hey guys, what's going on? It's Buns, and welcome to the Legion Warrior overview. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Blizzard has pretty much pigeonholed warriors for anyone that wants to play PvP to pretty much have to play Arms Warrior. After playing with it for quite a few hours, the other specs are not looking too bright, boys. But here's my game plan. I'm gonna start with Prot, go with Fury, do brief little summaries of those two, and then I'll kick into Arms. And there's actually a lot of detail into Arms and a lot of different builds you can go, so we'll spend the most time on that. But for all of you hipsters that want to know about the first two specs, I got you. We'll do quick overviews of the first two. So, breaking into things, going to start with our Prot Warrior. Now, Prot Warrior, it soaks a lot of damage, basically, but the damage, well, obviously it's a tank, right? Duh. Soaks a lot of damage. Duh, HP, it's a freaking tank, bro. What are you talking about, homie? Yeah, I get it. It's a tank. But it doesn't do that much damage. So, your general main abilities that you're using on Prot Warrior. Devastate. So you can spam it. Doesn't cost any rage. Does 80,000 damage. Has a chance to reset your cooldown on Shield Slam. Now, Shield Slam is your big damage deal. It does 150k damage. It's got an 8.4 second cooldown. Can change with haste. The amount of haste that you have. Reduce the cooldown on it. So, it can reset that cooldown, which is kind of nice. Your Shield Slam can also be buffed by your Shield Block, which blocks all attacks coming in for you by 100% chance, as well as increasing your Shield Slam damage by 40%. I have a talent that increases it by another 20. You also have Focused Rage, which, if you have excess rage to spend, what it does is it's off the global cooldown, and you can use it 3 times. Every single charge charges up your Shield Slam another 50%. So, I'll give you guys an idea of what it looks like. Go in, charge here. Gotta get some rage up. Generating rage as Prot is really difficult as well too, unless you're getting hit. That is not a fun part. But here's the focus rage buff. And you can do that up to 3 times, and to do 150 increased damage. You can also use Shield Block, which increases your damage done on your Shield Slam. Combo that together, you can get some pretty big Shield Slams, but it's nothing crazy, considering that there's a lot of ramp up and that it costs a lot of rage. Now, on top of that too, one of the weird things about Prot is that you don't actually have defensive stance, which is kind of weird. What you do have instead is an ability called Ignore Armor. And what Ignore Armor does is it's anywhere from 20 to 60 rage. The more rage you use, so on the 60 end of the scale, you're going to absorb more damage. So basically how it works is, let's say you have 60 rage, you're going to absorb up to 900,000 damage. And it is spammable. You can use it anytime you want. You just have to have the rage for it. So I can use it right now. And since we used it with 20 rage, it was on the lower end of the scale, which absorbs 300,000 damage. So you just have to be soaking up rage to be able to use it. It's available to you, but it's okay. You just have to be getting a lot of rage. It's very rage dependent. It's very weird that you don't have defensive stance as Prot, and I think that really hurts Prot in terms of PvP, because it's just like, you know, Arms Warrior just passively has defensive stance, which is nice. Well, not passively, it's a talent, but it's a pretty much must take. So, the last few abilities to highlight here is I've got Intercept, which you can use to charge to a friendly target. Take the damage that they use. I have Safeguard as well too. So it takes the damage that they will take for the next 3 hits. And you can also use Safeguard, which takes 20% extra damage and puts it on you. As well as some of the big cooldowns that you get. With Last Stand, which increases your maximum health by 60%. And top health for 60%. So if you want to get topped up, have a big pool of health, you got that. 3-minute cooldown. Now you also have Shield Wall, which reduces the damage you take by 40%. It's on a 4-minute cooldown. So some really hefty long cooldowns for some pretty big defensives. On top of that, every Spec of Warrior has Battle Cry, which gives you a 100% chance to crit. I'm choosing Avatar, which is burst damage, 20% extra damage. And you have Demoralizing Strike, which is specific to Prot, which reduces the damage that everyone in the area does to you by 20%. You can also talent into that to make it the amount of damage that they do, period, to your teammates. So Demoralizing Shout is just for you. You can talent into it to make it for your teammates as well too. That's your general look on Prot Warrior. Doesn't do that much damage, very much dependent on people hitting you to get rage. There's your general overtake. Now, going into the second spec, which we have Fury Warrior, I think that Fury Warrior would be in a better spot if the numbers were spiked up a little more. Because the idea behind Fury is that you're just doing a rampant amount of damage really fast, a lot of haste in your build, huge damage within Rage, which in Rage is when you get a Bloodthirst critical strike or a few other abilities that you have that enrage you, it puts you into this heightened state mode where you have 100% increased haste and 20% increased damage taken. It's actually 30%, but I'm spec'd into a talent that makes it reduced to only 20. So, you would think that you would do more damage for how much damage you take. But your main abilities that you are using as Fury is you're using Furious Slash. Furious Slash, no rage, spammable, does decent damage. And what it really does is it increases your critical strike chance by 15%, stacking for your Bloodthirst. So your Bloodthirst is a little bit of a heal, but your Bloodthirst, when it crits, it activates your Enrage mode. And that is where you do huge damage. And when you're enraged, it activates abilities Raging Blow, which you can only use while you are enraged, unless you talent into it, which is really not a good option. You want to use it in your enrage mode. And you can also use Rampage, which activates when you have 85 energy, or 85 rage, excuse me. And it also causes you to go into enrage mode. There's a few other talents you can spec into that will give you this option as well. But I'll go ahead and show you guys some of the numbers for what it looks like as well for arms, or for Fury rather. So here's your Furious Slash. You want to build that up. Do big damage with your Bloodthirst to get into your Enrage form. It actually didn't crit. I cannot believe that. Holy moly. Get your crit. Spam your Ravaging Blow while your Enrage is up. And then you can go hit Rampage, which is an insane amount of fast-paced damage and increasing your Enrage regeneration for a little bit longer so you can continue attacking in that form. Now, a few more cool abilities that you have. You have your Artifact weapon, Odin's Fury, which does fire damage to everyone in front of you, and it also puts a dot on them for 90k. So you hit them for initial 90k, and that's 90k over time. Whew! That was a juicy one. Excuse me, bless you. Bless me. Okay, that sounded weird. But you got your Artifact weapon as well, too. It's straight fire damage. It's straight fire, bro! Which is pretty cool. That's what you got available to you. You also have a lot of offensive cooldowns available as Fury, and I went ahead and comboed together a fun macro for you guys to use, that for those of you guys that do want to be hipster, I'll put this in the description. What it does is it takes a talented ability that I went into called Dragon Roar as your final talent, which does 30k damage, but also gives you 20% increased damage, and it stacks it with all of our big damaging cooldowns, like Avatar, which increases your damage by 20%, Bloodbath, which puts a bleed on them for the amount of damage you do over 10 seconds. The more damage that you're doing, the higher the bleed damage. And as well with Blood Fury, which is our Orc Racial, and Battle Cry, so 100% chance to crit. So you put that all together. Here's a fun combo you guys can do. What you want to do is you want to build up your Furious Slash all the way up until you have full rage. And I have a passive talent in my, called Frothing Berseker, excuse me. And when you get to 100 rage, it increases the damage you do by 10%. So you want to wait, ultimately, till you're ready to go with 100 rage. So I'm going to build up here and wait a second. Then, you're going to want to, right before you get to 100 rage, you want to Bloodthirst. And then pop your Schwafty Moneyshot Macro. So I'll use it right now. Here's the Moneyshot Macro. Use your Dragon's Breath. Spam your Raging Blow while you're in Enrage. Hit him with a Rampage. And then go in with the Raging Blows into a huge artifact weapon. It is a lot to damage. So, for all of you hipsters out there that want to have that one-shot macro, that's one I came up with pretty quickly for you guys if you want to stack all of your damage increasing moves for something fun that you can do if you want to mess around with Fury. Kind of fun. Not going to happen that often, but you know what? YOLO one-shot something. Okay. With that first two specs out of the way, I'm going to spend the majority of my time covering arms. Sorry for you guys that wanted to play some of the other specs. They're just not looking that great. They're going in order of where I put them. Prot's probably the worst. Fury's meh. Arms is very good. And for a lot of reasons. So, the cool thing about arms, even though I'm not a huge fan that the other specs aren't that viable, the cool thing about arms is that there are multiple ways to build your arms warrior. So, I'll start off with generally the basic abilities. And the big abilities that you got are Mortal Strike, obviously. That's the core part of Arms Warrior, which does 100k damage, reduces the healing that you hit on that target. So if, let's say, you go up and you Mortal Strike someone, it puts a debuff on them for 25% healing reduction, which is great in PvP. That is huge. So having that available with huge damage is awesome. I'm talented into something that gives me 2 charges of Mortal Strike. You can also make the choice to take Focused Rage as well too, which gives your Mortal Strike more charged up damage, just like Shield Slam did for Prot Warrior. Completely open to you if you want to go that route. I felt the double Mortal combo was the way to go. Oh, whoops, I was testing my Focus Rage from earlier. I like the Mortal combo, the double combo, I thought it was the way to go, but if you want to have that Swifty one-shot, that's available to you as well too with running the Focus Rage. Now, so you have Mortal Strike, Slam is back, and that's your Rage dump pretty much for 20 Rage, 75k damage, very reasonable damage. Colossus Smash on a 45-second cooldown, seems long, but we'll get to that. Does huge amounts of damage, about 100k, and it also increases the damage you do to that target by 45%, which is huge. So you want to make sure when you're engaging in on a target, you're using Colossus Smash right off the bat, then using all of your other abilities after that, so you're getting the benefits of having the extra debuff on them. So, go in, Colossus Smash, and you also have Overpower, which is triggered by your melee attacks. Overpower is in the first row of talents. Highly recommend it. Really good choice. I think it's the strongest choice out of the three there. And it does huge damage. There's really no reason not to take it. Very strong. Now, some of the reasons going into why Colossus Smash is actually way better than people think. Colossus Smash and Mortal Strike can be reset by your Tactician cooldown. Now, what Tactician does is for every rage that you spend, you have a 0.65 chance to to renew and refresh the cooldown on your Mortal Strike and your Colossus Smash. That's one of the reasons why I'm running with 2 Mortal Strikes. So if I'm down with both Mortal Strikes, I have a better chance of getting them refreshed, and I have 2 charges, rather than if I only have 1, and let's say it refreshes and it's not off the cooldown yet, maybe I'm missing out on charges that I could have had if it would have refreshed if I had 2 slots available. I like it personally. There's different builds you can go. Tactician is a huge part. You want to be able to be spending rage to do damage. Now, another cool thing is your artifact weapon as Arms Warrior. One thing that your artifact weapon offers outside of huge damage, which I'll show you guys the animation here in a second. It releases huge spikes from the down, does about 100k damage, but it also applies the Colossus Smash buff to not only your target, but everyone in the area. So, it's like an AoE Colossus Smash, basically. And let's say your Colossus Smash is on cooldown. Oh, no biggie, you know, just come in here. Summon the fucking thorns out of the ground, homie. You're gonna spike kids to the downtown ground. I don't even know what that was supposed to be, bro, but you were spiking kids down like it's a volleyball, homie. A lot of fun. Now, let me break into the talents a little bit, because here's where Arms Warrior gets really fun. There's a few other abilities here, like Whirlwind, that you can combo with Cleave, that if you're in an AoE situation are great to combo together, and then use your Cleave damage and into a Whirlwind, which buffs your Whirlwind damage if you're ever in an AoE situation. And you do have Hamstring and Execute. Other than that, that's your general main abilities. So, without further ado, going into the talents now. Overpower is really the best choice for the first row, but you do have some options later down. Shockwave, I like playing with that in most situations, but Stormbolt's there. It's a great option if you need it on a ranged healer or a ranged DPS. Now, your third row, you have Rend versus Avatar. Avatar is the all-in 1.5 minute cooldown where you get 20% increased damage for 20 seconds. Big cooldown, big burst, single target, a lot of pressure. Rend, though, is a viable talent, depending on what comp you're playing, or if you're playing with a Warlock or something that's going to do spread pressure, maybe like a Warlock Boomkin, even a Priest in some situations if you want to be doing more consistent swaps. That's available to you as well, too. There's definitely that option there that's available to you if you want to have more consistent pressure across the board. Now, going down to the next talent, I think Defensive Stance is a pretty much must-take in pretty much any PvP situation. If you feel like you do have the heals, you can go with Bounding Stride and get the extra Heroic Strike. You get the reduced cooldown on Heroic Leap. It's available to you in Second Wind if you're in a duel situation, you feel like you're not getting hit. Get some health back, 7% health every 1 second when you're not take damage, but I think Defensive Stance is the way to go. Most people that are in combat are going to stay in combat in Arena and Battleground, so I would go with Defensive Stance. Kind of weird that you have to talent into that. I think that's kind of strange. I went with the Mortal combo, your double Mortal Strike, very good damage, and it's very consistent. You want to spend the Rage to be efficient while you're going through your Tacticians to recharge on your Mortal Strike. You can also go with Deadly Calm and Anger Management combo, and your Deadly Calm makes your Battle Cry, which is 100% crit for 5 seconds. You have this as every single spec. Makes it that when you use it, you spend no rage. Every rage is free, so you can build up a lot of attacks, go ham, and combo it with Anger Management to reduce the cooldown on your Battle Cry. comboed with Pain Train, which makes it a 45-second cooldown in the first place, taking out 15-second, and gives your allies around you that extra 100% chance crit. So if you want to do swaps like that, that's available to you. Or you can also go with a build where you go Trauma, Opportunity Strikes, a little bit more consistent pressure with getting bleeds on the target from Slam and Whirlwind, and Opportunity Strikes giving you a chance to proc random damage with a 60% chance given on the target's health pool to do 50k damage, so a little bit more consistent pressure with something like a Rend build. A lot of different options as Warrior, and it's going to be very fun to see how many different builds you can go. You can either mix and match a little bit, you can go all in for consistent pressure, or all in for straight up burst, but there's a lot of different builds that you can go with Warrior. I'm really excited personally to try out arms and just mess around with all the builds and see what I like, try out it in different comps. But generally, that's your overview for Warrior. Hopefully this was helpful to you guys and gives you an idea for what you can expect coming into Legion. Arms Warrior seems to be the heavy favorite, but it does have a lot of options for you guys that want to mess around, figure out what kind of a build you want to go. That is available to you. Alright guys, that will pretty much wrap up our class overview for Warrior. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll have a new class for you guys tomorrow night. Continue going through the list so you guys are ready for Legion when it launches. Have a good one, guys.